Ah.
One, two, three.
Hi, my name is Ron Hood and welcome to Volume 2 of Urban Master. Now in this volume of the Urban Master we're going to be discussing topics as they relate to you away from your home. Now as you look through this video you're going to think, well gosh, this looks like it's made for travelers. Well, in a sense it is. It's a little bit about travel security and safety, but in reality the techniques we're going to show you here are only phrased for a traveler. The fact is that they all relate to people who are in any sort of an emergency. All of these techniques have application in the real world and during emergencies. Now in order to start this video we're going to travel off to Romania and take a little bit of a look at hotel safety and security. Then we're going to head off to Las Vegas for a little while and finally end up in a supermarket. And somewhere along this journey of information we're going to take a look at some of the techniques that you need to implement in order to make sure that the goods you carry with you for survival are not obvious to other people and don't make you a target. So without further ado, let's get started on this trip away from home. In the next few minutes we're going to be examining hotel and personal safety issues for travelers. Now in this first sequence we were visiting a friend of ours in Las Vegas, and as a chief of security for a very large hotel there, he suggested to us that maybe it would be good to put together a segment on hotel evacuation. And he went on to say that it's probably one of the most important things that a person should be looking into whenever they're going into a public area. For instance, when you visit another office, or perhaps you go to a restaurant or a theater or anything like that, it's always good to take a look at the alternative exits. The problem, it seems, is that people tend to, by human nature, go out exactly the same entrance that they used coming in. And in 2003 there was a fire in a nightclub in Rhode Island, and in that fire 100 people were killed and another 200 were burned badly. And according to the chief who was there at the time, he says that it's just human nature for people to go out the same exit that they came in. And most of these people were found at the main entrance. And that's the tragedy of it, because there were other entrances that were perfectly open and available to these people, and had they known about it or thought about it, they could have escaped and saved their lives. So let's start it out with a trip to Las Vegas. Whenever you're away from home, either on the road or maybe at work, you want to take a look at the local evacuation plan. Now most hotels and motels and places like that have some sort of an emergency exit plan pasted right on the door. Sometimes offices don't do that, but it's wise for you to understand exactly where you need to go in case there's an emergency. What we always do is as soon as we walk into our hotel room, we take a look at that thing. And in this case, it identifies where we are. And from here, we can tell where the different exits are from this building. Now, that's not just enough, because sometimes the dimensions of the building don't actually carry forward on this plan. Let me show you what I mean by that. What you want to do is actually walk the emergency plan so you know exactly where these exits are. Now remember, in an emergency, you might not be able to see these different exits, and it's certainly not a time when you want to be searching around. So what you do is, before there's an emergency, as soon as you get into the room, take a couple minutes, walk it out, and see what we've got here. We're going to turn left. According to the plan, all we do is we follow left here, down the hall to the As you go, count the doors on your right. 1. 2. 17. Now you see, we've made it to the end of the hall. There were 17 doors and a long walk. If you were in an emergency, there was smoke filling this corridor, and you were crawling, you wouldn't have any sense of how far it was to this exit that's behind me. So you really want to understand exactly what the dimensions are from the plan that you saw on the door in the room. Once you've got that, you won't make the mistake that kills so many people. Because if you don't count those doors, and you don't know how far it is, you may quit your little travel to the emergency exit and die on your way back to your room. Now this is the exit. The door works just fine. Test the exit to make sure that it opens. And you'll notice that in this hotel, down here below, we've got an exit sign. And the reason that sign is down there is because smoke rises. In too many hotels these days, they've got the exit sign high above the door. But you won't be able to see that if this is filled with smoke. If you're crawling down the hallway here, you'll be able to see this even through the smoke. So this is a good hotel with a good safety plan. It only takes a half a second to look around a room you've never been in before and identify the exits. Just 1/2 second. Now if you don't see any alternate exits, guess what? You have a problem. And if you were looking for those alternate exits during an emergency, you'd have a real problem. So be sure that when you enter some sort of a building, look around, find another escape route other than the one that you entered through. Now this goes back to an event that happened in 1997 on the observation deck of the Empire State Building. There was a Palestinian fellow who in an act of religious fervor decided that he was going to kill a bunch of tourists on top of this thing. He went up there and he acted a little strangely for a while. He pulled out a pistol and he killed one tourist, injured 6 others, and shot a baby at the same time. Finally he turned the pistol on himself and killed himself. Well, that kind of terrorism is something that's cropping up more and more around the world, and it's something that you have a potential of seeing. You may never see a fire, but it's always possible that you'll be involved in some sort of a terrorist act, and you'll want to know where those exits are. As soon as you see something that looks a little awkward, leave. In fact, on the Empire State Building, there was a family who was up there, saw this man acting strangely, and they headed for the stairs. Not the elevator, but the stairs. They went down one floor and then picked up an elevator and went to the ground floor. They saved themselves from all sorts of horrors, and it was only because they identified a threat before it actually became an incident, and they used the stairs. The United States State Department warns travelers to foreign countries that whenever you check into a foreign hotel, you should request a lower floor and make sure that the exits there are secure, that they're easy to escape through. You see, most foreign countries don't have the stringent hotel safety laws that we have here in the United States. And as a result, they have much higher deaths from fires and smoke inhalation and so forth. In fact, most of these hotels don't have the kinds of bedding, the fireproof bedding and carpets and so forth that we have in the United States. And there's a much higher incidence of smoking in those places. So they do have more hotel tragedies than we have here in the United States. In fact, when we were in Romania filming the section on escaping from a hotel, one of the employees that was working there says, "Well, what are you filming?" And I says, "Well, we're looking into ways to escape from a hotel in case there's an emergency." And she said to me, "Well, you know, you Americans worry about that stuff all the time, and we don't worry about it at all here." It's true. They don't worry about it. So you should. Well, I'm here in Cluj-Napoca, Romania. We're in the northern part of Romania, and this area is actually in a bird flu lockdown. So it's something that we're going to have to look into with respect to our personal health and safety. I'm going to be checking into this hotel here, and it's a nice hotel, a nice Romanian hotel. And while we go in, we're going to do something that everybody should do when they enter a hotel, and that's take a look for the potential hazards that exist in that environment that you're going to be sleeping in. So let's go on and check in, and we're going to start up this little elevator here and see what they got going on. First thing we want to do is take a look at the risk around here, see if there's a place to escape other than this elevator. Whenever you get to your room, the first thing you want to do is take a look around and see where that elevator was. And here what we've got is a stairwell that heads on down. So if we needed to get out, well, we wouldn't take the elevator, we'd just take the stairs. But the downside of this is there's no fire doors, so if there was a fire on a lower floor, it just roar up here and right up that elevator shaft. So that's kind of a mess unless we've got another set of stairs to help us get out. But maybe the room has a back entrance. Oh. Nice room. One little problem, it looks like if there was a fire downstairs, we're in a box, so we're kind of caught in here. The only way out of this room is down those stairs or down that elevator. Neither one of those things are acceptable during a fire on a lower floor. So there's got to be another way to get out of this room, and that's what we're going to take a look at next. I noticed some windows over here, so let's take a look out those windows and see what we could do there. It's probably an option. Windows are sometimes good. Oh, here we are. Here's a way out. Well, all I've got to do is grab that gutter there and go hand over hand along that gutter until I get to the end, and then I'll just drop down onto that balcony down there. Yeah, that's a good one for karate movies and stuff. Well, we've got this window over here. And we'll take a look. Maybe there's some place we can, figure out how to open it. Perfect. I don't know if my knees can handle it. In order to survive that jump, we're going to need a piece of the equipment from our Get Up and Go kit here. So I'll just grab that. My Get Up and Go kit has everything we need. Right here on top is a critical piece of survival gear. It's 5.5 millimeters, and in this little pile I've got roughly 200 feet. Now, even though it's only 5 millimeters, this will hold about 4,000 pounds. And the way I've got this put together is in the ladder lace. So what I could do if there was an emergency is I could simply withdraw, if I can get my fingers to work here, the cord from this, and then as I pull, it sprays out 2 lines. Now, since I've got it doubled over, I've only got 100 feet, but that's 10 stories. If I was up 20 stories, I could just go down to a single line. Remember, it will hold 4,000 pounds on each line. So there's plenty of this line here to get down the little 40 feet to the ground. Ta-da. Now when you get to the end, you've got a carabiner. What does this do? Well, this is what you do. Take the carabiner, and you can see right here on my belt I'm wearing one of these little rappelling belts. I always travel with this thing. I can clip into it like so, and I could use that as my rappelling harness so I could get down this building. And the way you handle it is you just go ahead and wrap the cord around the carabiner like that. This is the gate here, and then you clip it in to your belt like this. You can see the gate is open at the top, and this is around the base of the carabiner. To control your descent, all you do is hold on to this end. This puts resistance on the rope, and as you go down, this keeps you from falling to your death, which is always a good thing. The other end, this is the end you're going to anchor, is attached to something solid in the room. This could be attached to maybe a door or a bed or something massive like that. Got to be careful with doors because a lot of times they're just held on with screws, and if you pull the wrong direction, you'll pull the door right off and you go sailing out that window like a seagull. So you kind of got to be careful what you're tying it off to. Remember, it's going to take your weight plus a little bit, because each time you take a step down the side of the building, you're going to be putting a little extra stress, more than your weight, on that line. And also be careful, wherever this line is going, that it's not going over something sharp. You don't want to cut it. One of the other things that I always carry with me is something to help me escape, because see, it's possible that you won't want to rappel out. Maybe that's just smoke coming up that stairwell, so no actual flames or anything, so you can't escape. Well, these little things here, it's called an evacuation hood or a smoke hood, are real handy, and they fold up into almost nothing. They're great to carry with you whenever you're traveling or away from the home, or even in the house, in your bedroom, in case there's a fire in there. Now, these particular ones here, these are called Peace of Mind. These things are also good against bacteriological things. So if you're in a state where you've got maybe a pandemic, as an example, there's diseases everywhere, or bad smells, or something horrible, well, you could put this thing on and it'll protect you against diseases and all the rest of that kind of stuff for at least 20 minutes. So it gives you a chance. But let me show you how one of these things fits on, because this is a whole head covering thing. There's a real advantage to that because it does cover your entire skull. And if you've got a beard like I do, well, this thing still gives you good protection. Some of these things are just like little face masks, but this one covers everything, and it'll even work with a kid. Let me show you how it works. It's got a little rubber collar on it. Yeah. Pull. There you go. You just pull it up over your head. Once you got it on, well, you're breathing through this little face piece here, and this is what gives you the chance to get out without breathing that smoke. You also have some vision, but as you breathe, you're going to see that it starts to condense a little bit. So that's kind of the downside of it. But the upside is this is a fire-resistant material as well. It's not the kind of plastic that'll melt in the fire and stick to your skin. This is just going to kind of help protect you from the flames, and if there is a little bit of extra heat. But of course, you're going to be crawling close to the floor anyway and taking advantage of whatever atmosphere there still is in wherever it is that you happen to be. Of course, the field expedient for emergencies like that is a good old-fashioned towel. All you want to do is wet it before you put it on, like so. You don't want to get it dripping wet because the water is going to get hot. You just want a kind of a moist towel to kind of cover your face and your head with. The way you kind of do it is, there you go, kind of cover the back of your neck, drape it over the top of your head, and cover your mouth like this. So you got a place to see out. Now your eyes are exposed when you're doing this, so they're always open for burning, but if you have glasses, you can protect them a little bit. Well, fire is likely to take your life if it happens, or it's potentially going to take your life. One of the risks that's probably a lot more probable than a fire in a hotel room is someone stealing your goods. So let's take a look at some of the security things that you can do when you move into a hotel room or some other place. One of the things I like to carry with me is a little rubber door stop. And with these things here, you want to kind of try to cut the very tip of the thing off, because if you use a door stop, you shove it up underneath the door. What it does is it sticks out the other side of the door, and if somebody sees that thing sticking out there, they know what you got going on. And all they have to do is push it out with a pocket knife or something like that. But a door stop just slips underneath the door, something like that. Then when someone tries to open the door, it just jams the door in place. That way you've got a little bit of time, a little bit of protection, and you can defend yourself. This is another little thing I like to carry with me. This is a little alarm system. This one's called a first alert. There's a couple of different kinds, but there's two parts. There's a little magnet, and a little sound maker thing here. Make a pretty good little racket for the size. And these things don't weigh much, and they only cost a couple of dollars actually. So what I do is I carry these with me, and they're usually intended to be actually glued to a door. There's some double sticky tape on there, but I never do that. What I do with these things, I set them by the door, and as long as the magnet is right alongside the unit, it'll be quiet, like so. Now if somebody comes along and tries to sneak in the room while I'm in there, it just pushes that thing out of the way and sets off the alarm. That's usually enough to frighten them away. Another thing you can do with these things is you can open the door big enough so you can get out, about like this, and you step outside, and then you just reach around, set the thing right like you see it here, and turn her on, and then you leave the room. When somebody breaks into your room, why they come up like this and hit it, and it makes a noise. Once again, you've alarmed the door. But it's a real cheap little thing. There's a lot of other ways I can show you how you can use these things, including in your luggage. These days, a lot of hotel rooms are putting security right in the room. As an example, in this hotel, they've been kind enough to give us a little locking safe here. And what you do with these is you just put your stuff in and you enter some number, and it locks that stuff up nice and safe, just like that. That way, once you got it in there, well, you can just take that damn safe with you, and nobody can get your stuff. The moral of the story on that one is make sure the safe is locked down before you trust it. These days, you can never tell when your personal security is being violated in another way, because they can hide cameras just about anywhere. So I picked up one of these things here on the internet. This is an RF, radio frequency bug detector. It's a cheap little thing. I don't know what I paid, 10, 15 bucks. But basically it's just a radio receiver. And you can walk around in a room like this and wait until you hear a sound, and that'll tell you if there's a transmitter in there, because they can put transmitters to watch what you're doing in just about anything these days. Now I'm wearing a wireless microphone, and as I get closer to it, it picks up the signal from it. Bring the antenna out, it tells you where it is. And it works on just about all the frequencies you're likely to have a transmitter on. But it's a handy thing to take around with you so you could kind of watch to see if you're being watched. Today's travelers are faced with all kinds of new threats. There's threats to your personal security, there's threats to your financial security in the form of credit card theft and identity theft, and now there's the theft of your privacy. You'll find that nowadays they're taking hidden cameras, tiny little cameras, and putting them in tanning beds, gyms, restrooms, showers, all kinds of places. And then this information that's being collected about you as you perform your duties is being transmitted to these sites that are designed for voyeurs all around the world. So you might find yourself being the star of a video you never authorized. Let's take a look at the topic real quickly. Yeah, nothing I like more than taking out a few minutes every day to catch up on world events, relax a little bit. But you know, it's a little harder to relax lately because people have started to intrude in your privacy in the bathroom. Can you imagine that? In fact, they're doing it with a whole new technology, and they're called spy cameras, and you can get them on eBay for almost nothing. These things can masquerade as just about anything. They're tiny ones, there's ones that look like, oh, I don't know, smoke detectors. There's even ones that look a little bit like clock radios. In fact, what's that? Huh. Let's check this out here. There we go. Looky there. A clock radio camera. And you know what? It works. You have to learn how to protect yourself from these devices. And I have some devices that'll help me protect myself. Let's take a look at them. Well, there you go. A little clock radio like this can intrude right there in the bathroom, or just about anything else. So you've got to know that that might be a threat to your security. This one here, little camera that's built into a smoke detector. Looks down on top of you. God knows where they might put something like that. Here's one that's always popular with the news media. It's a camera, and it's built into a hat, and it actually looks through this little tiny hole here, little tiny pinhole. They're called pinhole cameras, and it, like the others, is wireless. There are no connections between the transmitter and the receiver, so the person who's picking this up might be just about anywhere within 100 feet or so. So if they see that the camera's been discovered, they boogie. How much do they lose? 20, 30 bucks. Here's another camera that's getting to be kind of popular now for people who like to intrude in other people's privacy. It's a camera that actually has its own built-in lighting system. It's an infrared lighting system. Let me show you what I mean here. If you watch the front of it here, it turns on a little light, a whole series of LEDs. And these are invisible to the naked eye. You could see them because the camera is sensitive to that light frequency. But this actually will light up a dark room and give you a fairly good picture. So these things can be hidden and illuminate a room in the dark. This is the ever popular mini TV camera. You can see how small the thing is. In fact, this is the same design that's built into the hat I just showed you. And I'll just plug this thing in like so, and you can see there it is, color and everything else. It's a fairly nice little camera for its size. Range is about 200 feet. Now, what do you do about this? Well, you've got yourself a miniature camera that you may not be able to recognize, because really when these things are installed in some sort of a device, you can't see where the lens is. It's so small. Well, they started developing little bug detectors. Now, you've got to know right at the beginning that these bug detectors are not special scientific devices that are good enough to be used by a private eye. These things are really consumer grade pieces of electronics, but they can help. And some of them are real junk. I picked these up on the internet, and I'll show you the junkiest ones. This one here is made to look like a little light it's a keychain light. You turn it on and you've got a flashing LED, which is kind of neat, and then you press it again and the little red LED beeps a little faster. Ultimately will stop flashing, and when it stops, then you can detect transmitters with it. But you can see you have to get right up close to it. That's not such a bad thing. If you go around in a room and you move this over every object in the room that might contain a camera, you might locate one. Oh, it also has some sort of fancy ultraviolet light that detects counterfeit money. This one here is a piece of junk. It looks kind of neat. It kind of flashes like that, and as you get it near a transmitter, the flashing increases. Same thing as the other one. As you get farther away, the flashing decreases. But you can never really tell what kind of range it has or if it's even operating. Incidentally, all these things operate on about the same frequency. Here's a little keychain one that looks a little bit like a little pager or something, or a little cell phone. You turn it on, here I'll turn it on, like that, and then if you see, as you get closer to the transmitter, it starts to beep and there's a red light flashes. You can see the range on that is a foot or two. And that's plenty, because if you were walked into a room and let's say you're in a changing room at a market, at a department store, you could just hold this thing up and kind of hold it, move it around, and then when you get a signal, bingo, you know that you're on candid camera. Here's another one, same kind of deal. It's called the Pro Hunter. I guess you hunt pros with it. It's already reacting to that. Let me turn it off again here. Well, obviously this one really is detecting that. See what it does there, it starts flashing right away. And this has got a little bit of range. I can move this clear out of the area and it will detect it. So if I was to walk into a room with a camera in it, this one will let you know that it's there. And another one. This one's kind of cool because it's got a buzzer mode in it. If you put it in your pocket, as you get close to the transmitter, it starts to buzz in your pocket. You can probably hear that. If you want to increase the range, you pull the antenna out, and that actually increases the range some. You can also use the beeping motion and lights and so forth to identify it. This one here, you can sweep a room pretty quickly with it. All of these things share one characteristic. They will only detect wireless television and radio transmitters. They will not detect ones that are wired into the system. But we find out that today most of the units that are being used to invade your privacy are indeed wireless ones, like this little tiny thing here. This is what you need to be on the lookout for, and whenever you go someplace you should have one of these kinds of devices with you, so at least you could scan the room. What do you do if you detect a transmitter like this? I don't know. Take it, crush it, or report it to the police. Your choice. Not everybody's going to have an RF detector to locate those hidden cameras, but there is a field expedient way of locating them, and it's not 100% positive, but it is pretty good. And what it does is it depends on the capability of a lens to reflect back at the topic it's looking at, or at the subject it's looking at. And what we do is we point a bright light directly at the lens and see if we can see the reflection. It's a little like red eye when you're taking a photograph of somebody's face and you get that red eye look. Well, that's the light going into their eye and reflecting back out. Camera lenses do the same thing. Let me try to show you with this camera. Now, what you need to know is that your eyes are going to be able to pick up these differences much more easily than the camera can. So we're going to try to make it so you can see the kind of reflection you'll get from the two cameras that are sitting behind me. It starts with a flashlight, either one of these or one of these, a small flashlight that's very, very bright. That's what makes these things reflect. Now, how do you use it? Before I show you, how do you use it? Well, if you think somebody's got a camera in their hat, shine the light right on their hat. See if you get a reflection back. If you do, they got one. If you see some kind of an object in a room that you're concerned about, why, you shine it at all the little spots on that object you're concerned about and see if you get a reflection. Basically, it means wiping or painting the room with light and look for anything that reflects back. The best place to hold the light is right next to your eyeball like this, so that the light is going out to the lens and coming straight back into your face. So it'd be something like this. You want it as close to your eyes as you possibly can. Some people could probably do it this way in front. But let's give it a try and see what you get. You see the little red and green lights? Those lights are reflections off the lens. Now we've got a camera on the right. That's the small transmitter. And then if you look carefully, right in the middle of the hat, just below the P in ESPN, you'll see a bright dot. It's right in the middle of your screen there. That bright dot is the camera lens. Everybody's seen these little cameras here, these little portable DV cameras, and you enjoy them on vacations and things like that. Nobody really gives them a second thought. But a lot of these cameras come with a neat little feature called night shot. When you flip that on, you're able to take pictures in a dark room, which of course offers itself up for abuse of privacy. But they've gone a little farther. Whenever there's a new technology, someone's out there to pervert it. And that's this little lens here. It doesn't actually look like it transmits much light, but it only transmits infrared. When you screw it on the front of this, turn on your night shot, and point it at somebody in a wet bathing suit, the clothing disappears. They actually call them X-ray cameras. So you can literally take pictures of somebody in the nude while they're wearing something, as long as that clothing is wet. And that's what I want to warn you about. If you go to a pool or the beach or something and someone's got a little dark lens on the front of their camera, they're looking through your clothes, and it's time to have a talking to that person. So one more thing to watch out for: X-ray cameras. When I first arrived in country, I heard the news that the bird flu was on the loose. Now, I always take some kind of precautions for colds and viruses and those kinds of things whenever I'm traveling on public transportation, and airlines are particularly bad that way. You know, everybody's in there coughing and sneezing and the air gets recycled. You never know when you're going to catch something. So I do things to make sure that I've got a better chance of not catching something. Now, these same precautions I take on airlines or trains or whatever are the kinds of things that are going to help you in case of a bird flu outbreak. Now, let's take a look at what exactly it is that I carry with me, and of course, it was really important to me during this trip to Romania. Well, I've been traveling through Romania now for about a week and found myself in this little hotel here. Turned on the TV set and discovered that they've got the avian flu all throughout the country. Apparently there's about 40 something areas that are infected with the avian flu. Some people call this H5N1 virus, but it has a potential for killing a lot of people once it gets loose. At this point when I'm talking, the virus actually hasn't made the jump from animals to humans. And when it becomes really dangerous is when it's able to jump from human to human. Back about 100 years ago, there was a thing called the Spanish flu that killed about 50 million people worldwide. Now with the density of population throughout the world, the chances are that this thing has a potential to kill many, many times that number of people. In fact, at this point, when people catch the avian flu from birds, they have about a 50-50 chance of survival, and there's not a lot you can do about it. It seems to kill the very young and the very old. Well, the idea here with avian flu is, of course, to avoid it. And in order to avoid it, we have to use a number of strategies. Now, you can never guarantee that these techniques are going to save you, but what they do is they reduce your exposure, and that's the best you can hope for when you've got viruses floating through the air. And the things that we use are mostly, since it's an airborne disease, air filtration, something to stick in your nose to collect viral samples so you can blow them out, and other things. Well, let me show you what we've got in our little arsenal here for personal protection against things like the flu and colds and so forth. Most of the diseases you encounter any place are going to be airborne. Now, that doesn't mean that they're exclusively airborne. They also sit on surfaces like railings or doorknobs or bathroom fixtures, that sort of thing. So you can catch this stuff from almost anywhere. And the way to, of course, avoid catching it is to avoid contact with it or avoid breathing. Now, breathing is a violation of one of your basic needs. So if you are breathing, and hopefully that's the case, then you're going to need something to protect yourself from the dirty air. Now, in the case of the N5 or the H5N1 virus, the avian flu, one of the things that's being recommended is a mask like this. It's just called the N95. It's like in November 95. And you could buy these things at hardware stores. They have a little valve in the front that allows you to breathe out, and then the air is filtered through this material here. And this actually pulls out the viral particles. And it doesn't actually clean out the viruses. Let me explain that. The virus is attached to dust particles and things of that sort, larger things. This is what pulls those particles out of the air. The virus itself really doesn't float around very much. But you just wear one of these things around, and you'll see these things just about everywhere where there's some kind of a pollution, a spill or whatever, and they just sit on your face like that. There's little straps that wrap it around the back of your head. But they're inexpensive. You could buy these things in bulk from medical supply houses, and I don't know what they actually cost, but they're less than $1 a piece. And they're only good, though, for a little while. You can't use them for day after day after day. Generally, what you do is use them for a day or so, and then when you take it off, you throw it away because now it's contaminated. It's got all of that stuff that's been filtered out right on the surface of the filter itself. So I usually carry a couple of these with me, and I hope I don't need them here, but if I do, if I see this thing's moving over to humans, I'm going to start wearing that thing around. It's also a good idea if you've got a cold or the flu to wear one of those, so if you cough or something, you don't kick this stuff out into the air where other people who are not protected could catch it. Good idea to have some of those in your travel bag. Now, the ultimate on the air filtration is something like this Peace of Mind. It's actually an evacuation hood. You pull this over your head and it gives you full head protection, and it gives you very, very good protection from viruses. It also, of course, filters out smoke and those sorts of things, and you'll learn more about this in this video. We always carry one of these things with us, and folded up they're quite small and portable. But I usually toss one in my travel gear. Another thing I like to do is I toss in a pair of gloves. Now, sometimes people say, well, you know, you should wear surgical gloves. It's true. You should wear surgical gloves. They give you good protection. There's a real barrier there to viruses. But you look stupid. I mean, you're walking around with a mask on your face and surgical gloves, and you're going to look kind of stupid. If you're just trying to blend in, a pair of something like this works best. They're just a little black cloth glove. And these are actually made for slot machines. You know, you get down there and jerk those things. But this has got a lot of texture on it, and it protects your hand. When you get done at the end of the day, well, you could toss it into some hot water, wash them off real good. They'll dry overnight. then they're good for the next day. But if you wear something like that, it keeps you from getting the stuff on your hands, which is a good barrier. Now, if you do get it on your hands, there's two answers to that, of course. And these two things here are what I use. This is a hand sanitizer. This has got alcohol in it. And you want to, when you look at this stuff, be sure you get one with something like aloe or some other oil in it, because alcohol will dry out your hands. You pour a little bit in your hands here like this, and just smear it around like so. Make sure you get the tips of your fingers like so, and that way, and then just let it dry. Don't wipe it off. It'll dry in just a minute or two, and that's contact time. It takes that contact time for it to kill it. But when the alcohol is evaporating, it's drawing moisture out of your hands. So if it doesn't contain some sort of a moisturizer, what will happen is in a few days your hands will crack. And the cracks in your hands then become areas where the viruses and other things will hang out, and you actually increase your chances of catching something because your hands are now split and cracked. So, and the skin, of course, is a huge barrier from disease. But be sure you've got something in there as a lubricant, lanolin. There's a lot of different things they put in it, but I love that stuff. Another thing I always carry with me are these little wipes. Everybody's seen these things here, and they're good for wiping off your face and making yourself feel refreshed. And also, when you come to countries that are maybe not on the regular route for travelers, you'll run into some toilet paper that you could probably use to finish a speedboat with. You know, that stuff's kind of scratchy. And these things here are handy. You get about 20 wipes out of each one of these, and that's generally enough to get you through some kind of emergency. But I always carry this stuff in there. It doesn't take up a lot of space. One of these packages on a week-long trip is usually enough to get me through. And again, you can wipe your hands, wipe your face. Remember, those airborne particles could be landing up here on your forehead. And if you go like this, just wipe that off. You clean them off, fold this thing up, throw it away, wash your hands or clean them with your alcohol scrub. Those then become contaminated. Now, another thing that I carry with me, and this is kind of an odd little trick, but I carry along some Q-tips. And the idea behind the Q-tips is that anything that stops a few of these diseases is a good thing. Now, you could use Vaseline for what I'm going to show you, or you could use anything else. If you've got something that really stinks, you could use Vicks, Vapor Rub, one of those. But you put something that's got an oil in it. I'm using, in this case, a body lotion that I picked up at a hotel. And you put it inside your nose. Now, Vaseline works better. But what it does is it covers the inside of your nose with a sticky substance. And the sticky substance then will collect the viruses and diseases and so forth, and then you blow your nose and you blow all this stuff out. So if you're in an area, you got people sneezing and coughing around, you whip out your Vaseline, shove some up in your nostrils, and bingo, you're on your way. I also use Neosporin, which of course is an antibiotic. Sometimes you'll find people that have other things that are airborne, and you can throw some Neosporin up in your nose and that helps filter it. And that's really the purpose of the nose, is to filter junk out of the air. They make special things. This is called Zicam. This is a cold remedy, and it's got zinc in it and some other stuff, and you squirt it up into your nostrils, and it seeps down into your throat. And this stuff, for me anyway, has really shortened the length of a cold. If I squirt that in there just after I get the first symptoms, why it tends to go away. But if you squirt it in before you catch anything, these bugs and what have you fall up, go up into your nostrils and disappear. The top of the line unit for me is, when I'm traveling, is this little gadget here. And this is a little ionizer. Now, I throw the switch on it, and there's a little high energy device in here that tosses out ions, and it basically is a portable air purifier with no moving parts. And what it does is it kicks out negative ions. Now, this is not ozone. This thing has been tested in 1,000 different ways, and you're not getting ozone out of it, so it's not dangerous to you, and it doesn't irritate your eyes or your throat. But what it does do is it charges the items in the air and causes them to fall out of the air or stick to your clothes or something like that. But you wear it right around your neck like this, and I can actually feel a little air coming off of this thing. That air is pretty well purified, and because of the intensity of it, it tends to kill things like viruses, and it's pretty effective at that. It's well tested, and I like it. Now, there are some units that you could buy on the internet for 20 bucks that will cause you all kinds of grief because they just put out ozone, and that is not good for you. But this is an ionizer. Well, that's about it for the air filtration things, and these are the basic items. On the plane I wear this, put a little stuff inside my nose, and just sit back and read. One of the topics that comes up all the time on the internet and in other places is, how am I supposed to carry the gear I need for emergencies? Well, I've got a lot of different answers for that, but the easiest one that I've come up with, and the one that works best, is something that I refer to as chameleon gear. It's a way of carrying the equipment you need for emergencies and not attract attention. Let's take a look at a little bit of video and understand a bit more about what exactly chameleon gear is. The Hummer H1 is probably the ultimate urban survival vehicle. In a collision, it'll drive through just about anything on the road. It's strong, it's stable, and it's dependable. But it's also something else. It's obvious. Years ago I realized that it's better to be a chameleon than to stand out. And this applies to the vehicles as well as the personal gear that you're carrying in case of an emergency. It's good to hide your gear so you don't stand out. Let me show you a couple of techniques for doing just that. Let's talk about that chameleon gear here. See what we can find out. Now, in order to show you what I got to show you, we're going to do a little rearranging the old house here. Start out with this chair and this coat, because this is one of the primary pieces of chameleon gear that I use. This here is a thing made by a buddy of mine, a guy named Scott Jordan from Scott E. Vest. I first started talking to Scott about 4 years ago, and he called me up one day. He says, "Hey Ron, I got this new product, and boy, it's a good one. It's a load carrying system, it's got a bunch of pockets in it, and it converts to a vest," and went on about it. And I thought, okay, Scotty, why don't you send me one of those and I'll take a look at it. Well, he sent me one, I looked at it, and I've been using them ever since. Let me show you a little bit about this product. If this sounds like a commercial, it is, kinda. Except I'm not selling them. Scotty is. This thing starts out with a pocket down at the bottom here. This is one of your main carrying pockets on here, and I'll show you what I got in it. I've got an MRE in here. I just keep one MRE in here. MREs keep for a long time, especially when they're in their package like this. Now, if it came down to needing to use this MRE, I'd probably slice off this outer package and distribute all the other condiments and so forth in different pockets in the vest. But for the moment, it keeps my food close together in the back. Believe it or not, one of these things will probably last you a couple of days if you're not working too hard, but at least it's some chow. I also have in here a little kind of I call it a health kit. It handles a lot of different areas, but it's all tightly packaged like you can see right here. And I'll show you what's in this thing. It's got some stuff in it you've already seen. This here is that little ionizer device that you've already heard all about it in another segment. I also keep in here something called Zicam. Now, Zicam is one of those cold remedies. And I'll tell you something, one of these days they're going to do some research and tell me that I'm full of baloney, but the fact is, for me, this stuff really works. What you do is you squirt a little bit of it up each nostril, and it helps to kill bacteria and viruses. And for me, like I said, it really works. Now, if you run into something like a pandemic, why, I don't know if this would work on that, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to take every possible opportunity to try to kill those bugs, and I'm going to bring this stuff along with me. Anything to reduce your chances of catching a disease are good. This here is some lip therapy. It's a Vaseline lip therapy. Basically, it is Vaseline. You've already seen how to stick this stuff inside your nose to help to protect yourself from bugs, but also in emergencies you tend to get nervous and lick your lips and do weird things like that. So it's good to have some of that along with you. Also, your hands get chapped. I also carry with me some of that hand sanitizer. You already know from another segment that you want the kind that's got a lubricant in it. Down in here I've got some water purification tablets. These are little iodine tablets, and you put a couple of these in a quart of water and bingo, you're on your way. You know, it just kills bugs. It doesn't filter anything out or anything weird. I also have a couple of, actually this is 2 sets of vinyl gloves, like rubber gloves, surgical gloves, that kind of thing. And I carry these not because I need something that's sterile, but to protect me. If I am in an area where there's diseases or anything like that, I can cover up with this and it'll protect my skin from picking that stuff up, and then later on I can pull it off and discard them. I also carry with me some of these hand wipes. These are also the antibacterial hand wipes, but these things are useful in a lot of ways. For one, you can refresh yourself with them. For another, if there is a major calamity of some kind, there may be dead bodies around, and those things begin to stink. Once you start smelling those things, you're going to wish you had these. What you do is just put them over your face, something like this, and it helps to put a refreshing smell in your nose and protect you from noxious particles that are floating around in the air. Another thing I have in here is a mask. It's actually a antibacterial mask. This is equivalent to an N100 antibacterial mask, and you can see it's really thin. But this one's different than the average one. It attaches with an adhesive backing. You peel this stuff off here, as you see, like so. There's an adhesive on here. Now what you do is you just slap this thing on your mug, like that, stick it on good and tight, and you're protected. This helps to keep bacteria and viruses away from your face. So if you are in an area where there's diseases and so forth, you can slap this on your face and it'll give you a lot of extra protection. Now if you've got a little bit of a beard, well, it's a little more exciting to take it off. Oh yeah, I love it. There we go. But it's a good product, and I carry 2 of these things with me in my kit, just in case. Also down there in that back pocket, I've got a first aid kit. We really don't need to go through the contents of that. You can get lists for what goes into a first aid kit anywhere, but be sure that you've got some of your prescription drugs, if you have any, already stored in it. You want to make sure you've got everything you need. I also have in here a couple of trash bags and another small bag. The trash bags are in there for shelter and whatever other uses you might find for them, but it's always good to have a little plastic with you to keep the rain off your shoulders and so forth. Let's see what else we got in here. Well, we've also got this. We've got a water bladder here. This thing is 100 ounces of water. Now in an emergency, you'd rush right out and try to fill this thing up. Hopefully you'll have a place that you can do that. If you have some warning that there's an emergency coming, you grab it, pull it out, fill it up, and you're on your way. Now this bladder just sits down inside the back and is carried very nicely and supported by a little strap. But the nozzle for it comes out up here by your neck in a standard, the standard way that you would use one of these things. So the water is right there, easy for you to reach, and you got your little nipple there to get the water out of. So that's just one of the pockets on the Scotty vest. Now, I should mention right off that there's probably close to 30 pockets on here. I never really did get a full count. But out here on the sleeve, you can see I've got a little pocket. I keep my knives out on the ends of my sleeves where they're really easy to get at. This knife here is a little a Swiss Army knife. It's a model called the rucksack model, which I use. It's a locking blade. You see it locks in position like so. It's got a can opener and a screwdriver and various other things. It also has a little doodad here to remove some corks from a wine bottle if you get the need for some wine to make your mood happier. A little flashlight here to light the way, another can opener, a little fire starting tool, and a knife sharpener. That's all on that one little doodad. Over on the other side, in the sleeve again, I have another knife. Now, it's nice to have a couple of different knives. Neither one of these knives are particularly threatening. That's one thing I try to stay away from. If someone stops me, I have utility knives. They can be used for defense. This one here has a little sharp blade on it, as you can see. It'll snap out with your finger. It also has, in the back, a fire starting tool. So with a couple of strokes like that, you can get yourself a fire started. Another thing that it has, which I think is kind of interesting, is a whistle. There it is. So you can whistle for help. because you can call taxis with it too. But that's a handy little knife, and I keep that with me. Again, it's not particularly threatening, and if you're carrying one around with you, they're not going to go, "Oh, you got a knife, let's arrest that guy." Now we got some other odds and ends in here. We got ourselves a pocket here, and inside the pocket we have our Peace of Mind smoke evacuation hood. You've already seen this, but I keep one of those in my jacket. I also have with me a small flashlight. This is called a safe light flashlight, and the way it works is you've got a button on here, and you get a beam out of it. That's a medium beam, and you hit it again and you get the high beam, and you hit it again and it goes to a flashing mode, and then you go back to off. When it goes to off, it's actually glowing a little bit, and this thing will shine for, I guess, close to 2 years in the very lowest mode and about a week in the high mode. Now what I like about this is that it has two things that you'll possibly find use for. This is a magnet, so you can clip it onto something that's steel or iron, and it'll stay, so it'll point at what you're working on. Another thing you can do with it is, if you've got a hat like this, a bill cap, you just slip it on your head like this, and I find the button here. Well, it's around here somewhere. There it is. What you've got now is a little headlamp, so you can move your hands around, control things, and the light is controlled by the hat. So it's a kind of a build hat, or a bill hat, flash attractor, all kinds of stuff. Great little flashlight, works on a single 9-volt battery. Let's see here. Got another pocket here. I feel something in it. This is something that that you need to kind of be sure you've got along with you, at least a leather glove. You want a good, durable leather glove. If there's a calamity of some kind, you're probably going to have broken glass and other stuff around, and those little rubber gloves aren't going to give you any protection at all. A good, solid leather glove will give you some protection from glass and what have you. Now, you'll better check the local laws in your area, but this particular one has something special built into it. And as I say, this is something you might not be able to use everywhere. It has about 5 ounces of lead built into the fist part. This will help you to break out windows if you need to. It'll also help you break out teeth or jaws or whatever else. But it's a kind of a hidden self-defense tool. You put it on your hands if you've got a potential problem, and you've got a little extra wallop in your fist. But again, I'm not recommending those unless it's legal where you live. There's another one of those over on the other side here. So we've got both of our gloves, and they're in the appropriate places so I can get to them. On the inside of the jacket here, I'll just flip this around. There's more stuff. The chameleon gear allows you to hide things really well. Down here I've got a little package, and in the package is a small AM/FM radio. This little radio here will let me listen in on emergency broadcasts and that sort of thing. It might be that I'm someplace and I'm on foot and I don't know what roads are open, I don't know where the trouble spots are. This will help me to avoid those things, know about them and avoid them. Now, since it has a speaker on it, you might find at some point that you actually don't want someone else to know that you're listening in on the news, or they're going to stop and say, "What's going on?" So I also keep in with it an earphone. That way I can listen to this information on my own, not attract attention, and I know exactly where to go, what to do, at least whatever the news media is saying. And you know they're going to be all over it, whatever happens. Another thing I keep in here is a small camera. That may seem like a weird thing to have, but over the years I've learned these things are handy in a lot of different ways. I picked this little thing up on eBay. It's not a really high-tech camera, it's just really small. And I keep this in here in case, well, let's say there's a traffic collision or something and I'm involved in. I can get out, take pictures of the site. I can take pictures of any skid marks, whatever it is. At least I've got some way of recording things. Also, if there's a major catastrophe, you could put that information right here on this, and it's possible that later on, at some point, you could take these photographs, take it from the street, and sell them and recover some of your losses. But it's always handy to have a little camera like that with you. And since I didn't pay very much for it on eBay, why, if I lose it, it's a big deal. So I got that. Another thing I keep with me. Now I'm listening to that radio broadcast, and it says on 5th Street and Burgundy, why you got this trouble and that big fire, whatever. Well, I've got a map. I keep a map with me. The map that's in here is from Romania. As you already know, I was in Romania filming some of this video, and I needed to be able to get around. Now, if I'm someplace in Romania and some trouble pops up someplace, I don't know how to get anywhere because I don't know any of the roads. And actually that's true with anybody who lives here in the United States. If you're in a big city, you probably don't know all the roads in your city. And if you hear that there's a problem in some specific area, you're going to want to find a route that gets you out of that area. And the map is the only way to do it. So be sure you've got a map of your local area. And when I was in Romania, this is the local area. So you got that. Let's see what else we got here. You can see all the pockets here, here, here. There's a couple of them up above here. And something I ought to tell you about too on these vests is everything is connected in one way or another. There's little channels, tubes to run wiring in here, so if you've got an iPod or something you can listen in. I carry cord with me, lots of cord. You never know when you're going to need a piece of cord, and if you got it and you need it, you're cool. If you need it and you don't got it, you're not cool, you're in trouble. So I carry some of that stuff with me. And let's see, also up here, let's see, on the back side, incidentally, you might say, well, that guy's fumbling with that thing, he can't find what he put in it. The fact is that when you're out there and you're using this vest, it won't take you long to learn where everything is as long as you put it back in the same place. Now when I'm wearing this jacket, I know exactly where it is and I could reach it and get it out in a moment. But when I've got it sitting up on a chair, it's a little harder for me to find everything. This is a pair of clear glasses, plastic lenses, and they're, I have a very slight prescription on here, but I buy these things at the drugstore. They cost me like 10 bucks or something like that, and I keep a spare pair in here. If I lose my glasses and I need them to look at the map or whatever, I've got my glasses right there. And I don't have to go rumbling around in some rubble looking for the ones that I brought with me. I've always got a pair and I know where they are. Another thing, if you don't have a prescription, if you've got regular good old eyes, one of these pair of glasses like this without a prescription is a good thing to have because it will protect your eyes from debris and other stuff. So it's a good idea to have some kind of protection for your eyes. If you lose your eyes, you're dead. Well, that is pretty much it for the Scotty vest. Now I can do a lot more with the Scotty vest. I could have filled it up to the point where I could barely carry it, and all I would look like is a guy that's a little bit overweight. But it's a good vest, and oh, forgot. Look here. Okay, all these features. It's also got a hood built in. So I can reach down in here and pull out the hood. There it is right there. So I can protect my head from rain. Anyway, that's part of the Scotty vest. Let me show you a couple more things. The utility of the Scotty vest isn't limited to just the jacket. Let me show you what I mean by that. They also offer a fleece liner that zips right onto the inside. Now I've used this fleece liner inside this jacket in 10-degree weather. It felt perfectly comfortable. And with the fleece liner, it's the same kind of deal as you saw with the jacket itself. It's got lots of pockets in it. Indeed, it's got this great big long one right in the back here to carry your water. So you can carry extra water in here, or you can just migrate your water from the container it's in on your jacket into this, and you've got some protection. But there's something about both the jacket and the fleece liner that is really special. And this is why they call it the Scotty vest. Down in the armpit area here, we have a zipper. There it is right there. And just this fast, we convert this thing from a simple jacket to a vest. Now, if it's warm out, you can still wear the thing. You can still carry your gear. You could still look like you're just one of the other refugees wandering through the streets, and you can stay cool. If it gets really hot, you can take off your shirt. But it's really a well-ventilated jacket. If you wanted to get more ventilation, you open this up, and it allows air to circulate through the mesh in the back. But the sleeves zip off on both the jacket and on the fleece liner, which is a really cool thing. Then you have a fleece liner vest, you've got a fleece jacket, you've got a jacket, and you've got a vest. It's a lot of stuff for one little piece of gear that you can easily carry into an office building or a school or something like that, and not attract a lot of attention from your compatriots, your office workers and friends and associates. There's a couple other things that I ought to show you too about this chameleon gear. A couple other pieces of clothing. After Scott completed the Scotty vest, why he decided that he wanted to branch out into a pair of pants, and so he put his mind to work and he came up with these here. They look like a standard pair of pants, but they have some features. These are features that I really appreciate as a traveler. When you go to other countries, other people sometimes think that the stuff that you own actually should belong to them, and so they attempt to acquire it. And one way that they do that is in bus stations, in train stations, and in airports, you'll find pickpockets. And these guys will reach down into your pocket after they do something to attract your attention and snatch your goods. Well, these pants here pretty much stop that business. What they've got is they've got a pair of pockets like this. There's actually two pockets. I'll show you in a second here. There's a regular pocket that you reach right into in a normal way where you keep some change and the keys or whatever else. And then, lying right up against the side of it, you can see here there's two layers of fabric. They're held together by a little magnet. Kind of snaps it together like that. This is a second pocket that rides in front of the first pocket. And this pocket goes all the way down into your leg, like that. It's a great big thing. It'll hold your Palm Pilot, it'll hold your comm gear, whatever, your radio, your walkie-talkies, whatever. Keep it all down inside there. Let me show you the size of this pocket. Here it is here. Great big thing, goes all the way down in here. And like I say, you can put all kinds of gear down there, including your passport. It's really well protected. Because if they want to get in here, they're going to not only have to reach in here, but they're going to have to separate the two pockets and then reach way down in, and if you don't notice that, you deserve to have your goods stolen. Another thing, the other side has the same kind of pocket. So you've got two of these great big pockets down there. And because these pants are, well, they're kind of loose, it doesn't print, it doesn't show on the outside that you've got these things full. I'm sure if you put two baseballs in each side, you'd be able to see it. But the fact is, with the normal stuff that a person carries when they're traveling, it doesn't show. And it's very, very comfortable on an airplane. Very, very well made pair of pants. And again, Scotty vest quality tells you that when you get it, you got the best. There's another company who makes some gear that I use as chameleon gear. Because it just has that feature. I don't understand what their purpose for it is, but let me explain. I'm wearing one right here. This is called a 511 shirt. They call it a tactical shirt. But you can see here that it's got some pockets on the front. Now, if I go like this, a hidden pocket opens up. I reach in, and there's my cell phone. On the other side, I reach in, and here's my passport. Now, you probably didn't notice these things were in there because stuff doesn't print. It doesn't kind of show that it's in there to anybody looking at it from the outside. But if somebody wants to steal my passport, they're going to have to know the pocket is here, and they're going to have to get in right next to my chest to get it. That makes it really handy. So this is one of their products, but they've got another one that I like too. This is another piece of gear that 511 makes. It's just a raincoat. It's a comfortable raincoat, and I think it looks pretty good. When you take it off, like so, it doesn't have all the features that the Scotty vest has, believe me, but it has a whole area in here that's devoted to pockets. And if you look closely here, you'll see that we've got a couple of big expansion type pockets here that'll hold a cell phone or whatever else you want to put in there. Another zippered pocket up at the top. And then in the front, another one of those hidden pockets that actually goes all the way down in here. So it has this entire area, I don't know if you can see this, goes out here like that, is available for storing goods. So you can put in things like MREs or whatever else you want into this little pocket. And it does that on both sides. So you've got a giant pocket that covers this whole area here, a couple of small pockets, and then another pocket at the top. So it's actually got quite a bit of storage in it for a raincoat, and it kind of complements the Scotty vest and other things that you have with you. But I recommend this thing here. If you watch for them, you'll see them on sale from time to time and save yourself some money. Well, I've pretty well peeled down now, except there's still more left. First thing I want to show you is my belt. I don't get excited here. I'm not going to do anything crazy, so you don't have to send the women and children out of the room. I'm just going to pull off my belt here. And you see, got a zipper down there. This is something that's been around since the beginning of time, I think, and it's just something that kind of disappeared from view, and it's a good thing. This is just a money belt. Now, one of the things that you need to do is to be sure that you've got some cash with you. I keep a little bit of money down inside this belt like this, and I wear it every day. You see, if there is some sort of a major catastrophe, chances are your credit cards aren't going to work. So right after the catastrophe, you can run down to a 7-Eleven. You can say, hey, I need some bottled water to fill up my water sack, and I need a couple extra bottles, and I need some Twinkies, and all that kind of stuff. If your credit card doesn't work, that guy's going to toss you right out on your ear. But if you got that cash with you, you're in good shape. Don't make it big bills. I got a 100 in there, but I also keep 20s, 5s, 10s, and that kind of thing in there. So if the guy says, well, I don't have any change for the money, you go, oh, yeah, really? Okay, well, I got some smaller bills here. So keep some bucks with you in a money belt, and that way you're protected against credit cards. Now, here's another thing I keep with me. I keep a little multi-tool. There's several different models. This particular one is made by Leatherman, and there's another one that I use a lot of the time, which is called a Gerber tool. But a multi-tool is handy. It's got all kinds of things that it'll do. Some people don't want to trot one of these around because they weigh a little bit. There's another thing I carry with me. That's this little flashlight here. This is probably the ultimate flashlight. This is it's an LED light, but it's got a 5-watt LED. And it's got like 15 different modes. If you push the button enough times, it's going to start singing to you. But if you press it just one time, you get a light. You press it again, you hold it on, it goes up to 5 watts. Let it go, drops back down to a lower light level, and press it again, it goes off. But you can control the levels and so forth. It's a fantastic little light. It burns for about 30 hours on the low setting, which is really bright. And on the high setting, it's as bright as any tactical light I've ever seen. So I really like these lights. Expensive, but worth every dollar. Well, there you go. That's chameleon gear. That's the way you hide your goods so other people don't see them and don't try to take them from you. Now, the solution that I offered you here is just one of many different ways of doing it. You might find this more convenient to put it into some sort of a bag. A bowling bag would look good. A baby diaper bag would be fine. Anything that doesn't attract attention to you. Now, I see a lot of these bug-out bag kits that people have, and they're fancy tactical gear with stitching on them and big buckles, and man, do they look cool. But if you're walking down the street and somebody sees that, they're going to be attracted to you. It's just like that Hummer. When they see that thing, they're going to go, oh yeah, what's that all about? We can get that from him. But if you're walking by that same guy with that tactical stuff, you got your stuff all concealed, they're going after Mr. Tactical to leave you alone.
Ron and I travel a lot, so I have a few items that I would like to share with you that we like to bring along with us on our travels. The first thing that I want to talk about is this Angel Alert Child Distance Monitor. Now what it is it's 2 parts, and there is a transmitter and an alarm, and they come apart just like this. And in case you have a small child that you want to keep within 30 feet of you, this is what you use. You put the alarm on your child, the transmitter on you, and if your child runs 30 feet away from you, the alarm starts going. Now you can also apply this to your luggage. Say you don't have a child and you want to use this for your luggage. You attach the alarm directly to your luggage and the transmitter to you, and if some bad guy, when you're getting your tickets or talking to someone or whatever, takes off with your bag, Once he gets 30 feet away from you, that thing's going to start beeping and he's not going to know what the heck's going on. So most likely he's going to drop that bag. We just like to take this along with us when we travel. It's just an extra safety device. Here's a magnetic alarm that you can buy for a couple of dollars at a lot of stores. It's very inexpensive, very effective. It is something that I use every time I'm going to leave my baggage somewhere in my room. What I do is I put it together, turn it on, and you can tell it's already on, and if someone decides they're going to come into my room and take my luggage, that's what they're going to hear. Eek. They're not going to come in here and try to turn it off. They're going to boogie. So this is a very inexpensive way to keep your things safe. One thing that I want you to remember if you are going to use these is if you're going to be traveling with these in an airplane, please take the battery out of it because you certainly don't want this going off while it's in the luggage compartment of the airplane. This is a neat little item that Ron and I like to use. It's a TSA approved lock. Now these TSA approved locks are the only locks that you're allowed to have on your luggage nowadays. And what's really cool about it is it has a special key in the bottom here that only TSA approved employees can get into. And this is how you get into it for yourself with this combination lock. Now this helps the TSA people to be able to open up your luggage and inspect it, but keeps the non-TSA approved people out of your bags, like baggage handlers, things like that. Keeps your things more safe. As women, we face a few special survival challenges. Come along with me for a ride and I'll show you some tips. When you're traveling in city streets, try to stay on the inside lane. Statistically, more people are carjacked when they stay in the outside lane. So whenever possible, stay on the inside lane. When you're picking a parking place in a supermarket or a mall, try to pick a parking place that's not right next to a large truck or a big van. If you park next to other cars, be sure to check to your left and to your right, always. If there's someone else in those cars, they could be laying in wait to take your goods. So the best thing for you to do is to find another parking place where there are cars that don't have anybody inside of them. Try to get a cart that's already out in the parking lot. That way you already know it rolls, and if someone comes up to you in the parking lot that you don't like, you can always put this in between you and them as a precaution. The other thing that's really cool about this, take your purse. These are not always just for babies. Hook your purse onto this and be sure your purse is closed. That way no one can just take off with your purse without getting stuck to this. If you're in the parking lot and you notice that someone is checking you out and watching where you're going, look them right in the face deliberately, like you're memorizing their face. And then get out of there. So they know that you've seen their face. You're not a victim. You're not going to look away. Look them right in the face.
Delicious green salad. Place tomatoes, green peppers, and cucumbers on a bed of fresh red bread, artisan
When you're shopping, you tend to get distracted. I mean, if you're like me, you tend to get distracted. It's a good idea every once in a while to look around just to see if someone's following you and see what everybody else is doing. Just stay aware. When you leave the supermarket, be sure your keys are already in hand. You don't want to be fumbling in the middle of the parking lot. Also, you need to look at your car. My car's that black Suburban down there. I want to look and see if there's been any action around there, if there's anybody looking at what I'm doing or waiting for me. Now when you roll up to your car, you just look inside to see if anything is disturbed in there or if anybody is inside your car. You'd also want to look at a car next to you and see if anybody was waiting in their car. And especially if they're not looking at something or doing something. If there is someone there, go back into the store and ask someone to come out and help you. When they ask you if you need help, don't hesitate to say yes, that's what their job is. The other tip is, when you're looking away, you can use this as a reflection. Use this as a mirror so you can see what's going on behind you and you can still be doing your things and opening your car safely. As soon as you get into your car, first thing you need to do, lock your door. Very easy, quick thing to do. Make sure your windows are up, and if it's a hot day, Use your air conditioner to cool you off. Don't roll your window down, because that gives a bad guy an opportunity to come in and grab you to get you out of your car. Another tip is, if you have something else to do, like check your receipt or make your checkbook out or whatever you need to do after you're done with your shopping, move to a different area, especially if there's someone sitting in a car next to you. Move to a different area, one where you can see what's around you. Be aware. That's your best opportunity to stay safe.
We talked a little bit about MREs in Volume 1 of the Urban Master series, but I want to tell you a few things about MREs that you may not already know. Now, you've already seen what an MRE looks like, and I'll go ahead and open one up here and let you get reminded. An MRE is basically a complete meal. It's got a major entree. In this case here, it's pasta and vegetables Alfredo style. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? It's got a, this one here is a peanut butter package. That'll keep you good and juicy. We've got some iced tea or a tea drink of some kind in here. We've got an oatmeal cookie that's chocolate covered. And we have some crackers. Now this is a standard MRE. Some of these things contain additional items, including spoons and forks and spices and stuff like that. But this one here is your basic MRE. Now inside the MRE, we have a package that contains the actual food. And like everybody else, I like to have my food hot. Well, they've come up with a way to do that, and it's called the MRE heater. And that's this thing here. It pulls over to next to nothing, and some of the MREs actually come with these things included. Well, how does an MRE heater work? Well, let me show you a little bit about this thing. Basically, it relies on a chemical reaction. They've got magnesium, some iron powder, some salt inside of a kind of a little cardboard box down in here. And when you add water to it, it starts a reaction. It's actually called rusting. And as it rusts very, very rapidly, it kicks off heat. And the heat from this thing will reach 150 or 175 degrees, believe it or not. It actually appears to be boiling. One of the byproducts of this boiling process is going to be a gas, and the gas is hydrogen. So these things kind of smell if you do them in an enclosed area. In fact, if you do enough of them in an enclosed area, you're basically setting up some sort of a hydrogen bomb. Now, let me explain one little thing about these, and it's a mistake a lot of people make with their MRE heaters. When they look at this, they see down here a line for filling in your water. You can see, do not overfill. Well, they're serious about that. They don't want it overfilled because it slows down the reaction. You actually get less heat for the amount of water. Well, how much is the proper amount of water? Let me give you an example. In the illustrations, they show you pouring a canteen into it. And I think that's what sets people off. I just added a tablespoon of water. One little tablespoon. If you look at it, it's just right. That's all you're talking about. 1 tablespoon of water in one of these packages. Now, as soon as you put the water in there, what you want to do is kind of move it around like so to get all the stuff inside nice and wet. If you need a little bit more water, you can add another half a tablespoon of water just to kick it up a little bit. Now after 4 or 5 minutes, it'll start to react. I ought to mention too, the ones that I've got here in front of me were made in 1992. I'm going to add another half a tablespoon of water here, just a teaspoon, like so we can get everything real wet. And you can usually tell when you look at the cardboard inside if it's wet enough. But add a little bit of water at a time. So now we're starting to get a reaction. It's starting to actually heat up. When you want to heat your MRE, how do you do it? Well, here's how you do it. Here's your MRE packet. You do not open it. What you do is you take your MRE packet, your entree, your main course, whatever it is, and drop it down into the package like so that it's over the top of the little heating element. That's this pad right here. Okay. Now what you do is you fold this over. You can fold it over frontwards or backwards. I'll just fold it over backwards so you can see. And you set it down so that the water is down at the bottom and the opening is up at the top, like this. And you let it set for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it'll be good and hot. Makes you a good warm meal in a 10 or 15 minute span of time. Now, while this is reacting like this, it's actually just heating up the contents. You'll realize pretty quickly that with all the heat that this thing is throwing off, you could do more than just heat your food. If you want to, you make a little bit of coffee. You could pour in about a cup of water, something like that. Add some instant coffee or tea or whatever it is, and just set it right up on top like so. And that way you'll heat it up. It's not going to be hot, piping hot, but it's going to be warm tea or warm coffee. So you've got two things going off of one of these heating packets. If you've got extra heating packets, well, you could go ahead and charge up another one of these things and actually heat your coffee to a reasonable degree. You're not going to get it to boil. This isn't going to purify water. All it's going to do is heat the stuff up. Well, while that's cooking away here and we're getting ready for our fine meal, there's a couple of other things that you can do with an MRE packet that you may not know about. The first one I don't want to recommend to you. I just want to tell you about, because it is something that if you made the mistake, it could be embarrassing, and if you needed to make a mistake, it could be handy. Basically what it comes down to, and I'm not going to do this all the way because of something you'll learn in just a moment. You open up your MRE packet and you grab a bottle of Hood's Woods tongue scab sauce, or you buy some Tabasco sauce or one of those things, and you sprinkle about a tablespoon of that down inside of this package. You might need to add a little bit of water as well, and let it start to react, and get it the heck away from you, because what it's going to do is it's going to kick off a whole bunch of this hydrogen gas, and in the hydrogen gas you're going to have pepper. It's going to be a pepper gas, and it's going to be very, very obnoxious. If you've got some kind of a let's say a critter holed up underneath your house, you could try packaging one of these things up and toss it in there, and it should drive most critters right out, because it's very, very irritating. But don't do this in a foxhole. You'll learn in a hurry that you don't want to. Another thing about these that, oh, looky here. You see it's kicking off that hydrogen gas, and you can see that it's starting to swell. That's from the hydrogen gas that is pumping out. I'll just let that get back to work here. Another thing that you hear about is, well, golly, these things have kick off hydrogen gas, but they've got something else going on in there. They have a powder in them, and they're magnesium and they're iron, and if you're not careful, why, they'll just burst into flames. Well, let me show you something here. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this powder in a pile. This is the powder from the MRE here. Here, I'll set it like that so you can see it. Not like this. I don't want to hurt myself. That's the powder from the MRE heater. Does it burn? That's the question. Let's find out. Huh. It doesn't burn. You see, it's hooked up with salts, and the salts keep it from burning. You can't get it to that space. If you toss it in a fire, sure, it'll burn. It'll burn like any other thing that might burn. But it's not going to just spontaneously detonate. And some people have suggested that it will do that. There's something else that might be useful to know. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this one, it's like Mr. Wizard's laboratory, isn't it? And I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon. Maybe I'll put in 2 tablespoons this time, because we actually want gas. And we're going to let this sit for a few minutes and react. Now I'll mix it around like I said before. And after it's done that, we're going to come back and see something interesting. Something that you can do with this if you have an emergency. While that's doing its thing, let's go back to this one. Looky here. This is nice and swollen now. That's the gas that's going to be coming off. It's not necessary to worry about venting it. It's not going to detonate. It's not going to raise enough pressure to actually go off. However, there have been people who have amused themselves by taking the powder out of these things and putting them in a small bottle, something like this, and then adding a small amount of water and tossing it out on the yard to watch it go off. It's not an astounding explosion. There are a lot better ways to make a bang sound, and it's just something that people do. Well, let's wait for a couple of minutes and come back and see that last trick. I've got my knife here and my lighter. Now you can imagine if you needed to get a fire started, what you could do with this. I'll just poke a hole in here and light the hydrogen gas. There it is there. So the hydrogen gas is burning. Now the heat from the hydrogen gas will start to touch off the plastic around the outside. So you can use one of these things as a way to start a fire. It's probably an inappropriate use for it, but it does give you a little bit of a extended flame to get some wet wood going. Well, that's about it. I guess it's time for me to dive into a nice hot thing of, what am I cooking here? Alfredo. See you on the other side. Welcome to the other side. I think it's time for chow. So I'm going to reach in here and grab my MRE and pull it out. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you get it out is that it's covered with this powder. The powder is actually not toxic. It's kind of the same stuff that you'd find in things that help you go to the bathroom. It might give you diarrhea if you eat a bunch of it, but I usually just wipe it off. Now, something else that the MRE people did is they put little notches in the side so you could just tear it off like that and get at your food. Well, it's a long ways down in there. I use one of these spoons here, and I'm going to show you a couple of things here. This spoon is an old military surplus stainless steel spoon, and you get these things at surplus stores and so forth. I love this spoon. It's big enough to dig it into a hole. It's also large enough to get a whole lot of food. If somebody says, you want to share some food? You say, yeah, and you bring your own spoon. This baby will give you a mouthful. What I like to do with the MREs, though, is instead of cutting it open on the ends that you see here like that and reach down in there, I like to go ahead and just slice them off lengthwise so my bowl isn't quite so deep. And there it is there. Now I can get at my chow nice and easy and enjoy myself. Bon appetit. Oh, God. Well, let's take out a few minutes to talk about the bug out bag. Now, the bug out bag is your major survival kit in case of an emergency. This is the kit that has all of the goodies in it, the stuff that you need if you have to evacuate your home or leave your business behind or whatever. This is the big daddy. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about bug out kit contents over the years. You know, you want to add this, they want to add that, radar detectors, you name it. Put more stuff in it. Let's make it heavier. Well, I've got mine here, and it's about as heavy as I want to deal with. In fact, it's a little bit too heavy to put in a backpack, but you might want to modify yours. A couple of things about these kits. The contents of the kit are determined by your location and the weather. It's going to change. If you're in the middle of the winter in the Northwest, you're probably going to want to carry something different than the guys that are down in New Mexico. So it has to represent your environment. Now, this particular kit is built into a rolling piece of luggage. I've got wheels on one end so I can pick it up and just roll it where I want to go. If I need to pick it up and carry it as a pack, I can use these straps that are here and kind of sling it over my back that way and pack it around. But the idea is to not need to do that. Roll it someplace, get where you're going, and be comfortable. Well, let's quit talking about the carrying system and talk a little bit about what goes into one of these things. Now remember, this is going to be controlled by wherever you are and your own personal needs. And I'm not going to do an exhaustive, detailed description of each item because you've already seen most of these things in other parts of this video. In here, in the top section, I have mainly food and support equipment. So I've got a set of goggles here. These are like dust goggles, and I keep them sealed up so they won't get scratched, but they're impact resistant and they'll protect me from dust and debris and that sort of thing. Keep a pair of those in there. Those cost about $3 at a little store, hardware store. I also have a package with all kinds of important documents in it. These are photocopies of deeds, of our insurance papers, birth certificates, the kinds of things that you'll need to recover with after some kind of an emergency. If your house burns down during a forest fire, the documents are in here, and bingo, I've got what I need. I'm not going to lose it. Once I pick this kit up, I'm set to go. I've got a set of those little beeper alarms that you've seen, those little magnetic alarms. These make good perimeter alarms and so forth. You could hang these from things, whatever. If you're out walking around and you find a place to camp and you're afraid someone might take your stuff, a couple of these babies. That'll give you some protection. I've got some cordage in here. This is for hanging shelter and so forth. You've already seen the same kind of cordage in another section of our video. Good strong stuff. Got a couple hundred feet of that in there, along with a carabiner. a dust mask, or a face mask to protect yourself from contagions and other things. There's other copies of this you've seen already in my other gear, my little shoulder bag and my chameleon gear. So I've got several of those. I've got something to wipe up with. That doubles as toilet paper. A large spoon. I've also got odds and ends here. A metal cup. And a metal cup is an essential thing because you could cook in it. I've got a flashlight. We use these little lights, paddle type lights here, because they have so many different functions and the battery never seems to go out on them. So I've got a cup, something to eat out of. I've got something to eat with, a flashlight to illuminate it. This is called a P38 can opener, useful in the military. It'll open up all kinds of cans. A general purpose pocket knife with a saw can opener, blade, and so forth. Something to wash my hands with, some Dial hand soap stuff. Little fire starting pocket knife so I can start a fire if I need to, and I can cut with it. So I've got those odds and ends. A hat. This hat covers the back of my neck. This is obviously made for warmer weather, but if it was really cold out, I'd replace this with something a little bit more insulating, something that's got some more protection. I've got a first aid kit in here. This is a larger first aid kit. It's got medications, the kinds of medications that I might need, medications for the rest of the family. And remember, the rest of your family is each going to have a kit similar to this. Maybe not all the same stuff in it, but it's going to have all of the support gear they need. They'll have a miniature survival kit in it and something to eat out of as well. This is a poncho. This is for rainproofing myself, protecting my equipment. Bad weather, I can make it into a shelter by stretching it out with the rope. I could turn it into like a little tent. So I've got a poncho in there. This is a water purifier. You may not be able to carry enough water. Now, if there was an emergency, I'd toss in a few bottles of water and I'd be on my way. But if I run across a swimming pool someplace and I want to drink that water, why, this water purifier here would help me to refill those little one pint bottles that I'll be tossing in here when the emergency happens. I've got a big pack of batteries. These are the same batteries I use in all the equipment I've got. They're AA batteries. These are all alkaline, and they make great trade items as well as helping to make everything else I've got work. I've got food, canned food. Canned food because it's already in a container. All you have to do is heat the stuff up and eat it. So I've got a couple of cans of regular food. Actually, I think there's 3 of them in here, 3 nights. And I've got a couple of little cans of these are mandarin peaches here, something sweet to get you going. Get up in the morning, have a can of this, and in the evening when you settle down, you have your other cans. I've also got one of the MREs, the ever-present MREs, because it's got all kinds of good stuff in it. So I've got enough chow there for probably 3 days. I won't be eating like a king, but I will be eating. A change of clothing. These are sturdy pants, heavy-duty shirt, and all of that kind of good stuff. I've also got the essential thing. You got some bad food, you don't like the flavor, make it really good. Some hot sauce or Tabasco sauce or something like that will make that chow go down. Down here on the end, this thing opens up, and a couple of really important pieces of gear that a lot of people don't think about. A pair of sturdy shoes. Now, what if you're caught with your socks on or something like that, and you go, oh my God, you grab your kit, you run outside, and there you are. Now you're still walking around barefoot, and you're not going to get very far. So a pair of heavy-duty shoes, something that will protect your feet from broken glass and all that other stuff should the situation be really terrifying. But you'll need a pair of boots. I also keep in here sleeping gear. Now you could switch this out for blankets if you want, but I keep a sleeping bag in here, and we like to use the hollow fill or synthetic type bags because when they get wet they're still warm, but it stuffs right down into the thing, and I've got a piece of sleeping gear. Now you might say, well, what do you sleep on top of? What do you do for insulation under you? Well, old cardboard boxes, things like that will give you good insulation underneath. They're not comfortable, but they work. You can also sleep on top of your pack. So this thing here is going to make it possible for me to sleep. So that is basically the top portion of this thing. Now these bags open up like so, and this is where you get into the stuff that people really to hear about. And I don't know why, but this is where it is. Now I'll go through this thing a little bit at a time, and I try to keep it neat so it's protected. This radio here is one of those kinds of radios that you crank like that.
I thought you were going as an astronaut.
Not for me, for the dog.
And it starts making all kinds of noise. It's got a radio, AM, FM, and 2 bands of shortwave built into it. It also has a little light on the end here that in some manner you flick on after you charge it up by cranking it for a little while. But something else I like about this one, and I got it at Radio Shack, is it comes with these cables. They plug right into the back here. It's a USB port. When you plug it in, you can take one of these cables and it plugs into your cell phone, so you could charge your cell phone or other items right off the crank on the side. So it's got a lot of different uses. It also runs off a set of batteries if you want to toss those in. But it gives you some light, sound, news, that kind of thing, and it charges up your cell phone. All good stuff. Something else I keep in here, a pair of binoculars. I may not want to get close to something, but I want to see it well enough that I can avoid it. In other words, if I see something down on the road ahead of me that disturbs me a little bit, I don't want to drive up to it to find out what it is about it that disturbs me. I want to be able to see it from a distance, so I carry a set of little binoculars like these. You can pick these things up just about anywhere, and I like this size, even though it doesn't let in as much light as a bigger pair, because they are very, very portable. I also carry with me some other odds and ends, more water stuff here. I've got some iodine tablets to purify water. I've got some eye drops. You might get, again, debris in the air can mess up your eyes, so I carry some Visine with me to help wash the red out. A compass to help me locate myself on maps. And the last thing down here, this is a set of lock picks, so I can open up locks. Now, I'm not going to discuss lock picking with you in this video. Maybe in the future, someday, we'll get around to making something about security. But at the moment, a set of lock picks is a good thing to have with you. Learn how to use them, learn when to carry them, and when it's illegal. This portion down in here, oops, something else. This is a scanner, a police scanner. Actually, it's more than police. It's police, weather, news, all kinds of different things. But I keep this with me because I can tune into the emergency broadcast frequencies and find out what's going on, what I need to avoid, or what I need to do, where I need to go for assistance. So a scanner is a darn good idea, a good thing to have with you. This down here is held in pretty tightly. I'll open her up. What we have here is weapons and communications. Now, people's choices about weapons vary. Some people like a certain kind of firearm. Some people don't like them at all, but I've got a few in here, and I'll show you what I carry. Before I get to that, a good sturdy knife. You need a good solid knife that's going to stand up to abuse. I also carry a second small knife for utility purposes. This one here is a neck knife, just hangs around your neck, or it clips right on your belt. I also carry with me one of these things. It's called an asp. It's a little club. Now, if there's wild dogs running around and they're biting at your ankles, one of these things will do a good job driving them away. In a big emergency like a heavy earthquake or something, there will be dogs running around. We've learned that lesson many, many times. I also carry with me a big thing of, this is tear gas, but this is made for bears. You can see it's a large container. It's bear repellent, they call it, but you squirt this stuff in an attacker's face and it'll definitely change his day. So I carry a big bottle of that around with me, and rather than using lethal force, this thing here is a good start. I also carry with me a couple of radios for communications. We got the family, somebody's off doing something, someone else is off another place, you've got radio communications between the two of you. You also have the opportunity, because these radios are so common, FRS and GMRS radios, they're so common, you'll be able to communicate with other people who might be able to help you and work together as a survival group. So I carry those with me. I'm a big proponent of the 45 automatic, so I carry a 45 automatic. This one here is a P14, carries 14 rounds in the magazine, one in the chamber. So I've got a little bit of shooting there. I'll put that over here. I also carry with me my old 1911, and this here is a good shooter as well. But I carry a couple of little handguns like this because I happen to like the 45 caliber. A couple of guns, lots of ammunition. Ammunition is carried in another container. .22 ammunition. I carry something to put all of these in, a carry system of some sort for all of the firearms. One of the things that Karen likes, she likes wheel guns. This is a wheel gun here, a revolver some people call them. This is a lightweight 38, it's 5-shot. So Karen likes this little thing, and we can just tuck that right down in here, and this is a little ankle holster for it. So you can carry that around. Very, very lightweight, good shooter. She's good with it, knows what to do with it. I also carry with me a 22. This is a little Ruger 22, and you can see it's got a rail on the top. That's for a scope. I could shoot it either open, sighted, or with a scope on it. This is for, again, dogs or getting meat from wild game and so forth. But a 22 is a very, very handy cartridge. Not really a self-defense cartridge, but it does the job on small game. And it doesn't make a lot of noise. More ammunition, magazines, and that sort of thing. On the 38, just a couple of quick thoughts. We carry Glazer ammunition, which is relatively deadly. It's effective ammunition, so we've got 4 rounds of that. And the first round in there is a load of snake shot. You know that in most cases when you're in a firefight, it happens up close. One load of this snake shot in somebody's face is going to change their day, and that gives you a chance for another second shot. Something else I should probably mention about the 38 that seemed to dance out of my mind. This is a double action, meaning you just pull the trigger. You don't have to cock it first. You just pull the trigger and it will shoot. Makes it very, very easy. You don't have to be a mechanical genius to work one of these things. So we like the double action revolvers for Karen. The thing that it's all laying on here is a piece of heavy-duty Cordura with a felt lining. I call it a sniper mat. It's not just that. It's also good for laying down on the ground when you're sleeping. So you lay this thing out. It's about 6 feet long, 5 feet wide, and it gives you a pad to lay down on to help keep the moisture from getting up to your body. Something else that we carry with us doesn't fit in there. For a long gun, I use the 12-gauge shotgun. It's a good weapon. This is a very, very inexpensive one I picked up at a pawn shop. 12-gauge, semi-automatic, and it carries about 5 rounds, and it'll do the job. I mean, it definitely is a talker when you need some talking done. I don't believe in carrying a lot of heavy-duty rifles with me because they're just so damn obvious. And some old sporting gun like this doesn't attract the kind of attention that maybe an AR or another weapon of that sort would attract. In that, I have several different kinds of cartridges available. I've got a number 4 buckshot, which I've found over the years has been a very effective room cleaning kind of round. It'll take down most animals at a close range. Some double-aught buckshot, which is definitely going to knock the socks off of something, and a few slugs. I carry about 5 slugs with me. These will probably knock the motor out of a motorcycle, but they're good heavy rounds for penetrating things. So with the 12-gauge shotgun, I've got something that can take down large game, or I can use it for self-defense. And that is basically it for my bug-out bag. Any questions?